Tonight on Chimstock Africa, we go to a collage of different stories of men that went from rag to riches. What was the secret? Tonight on Chimstock Africa. Please like this video and leave a comment below. Let's know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell button and share this video with somebody.
From Cape Town to Cairo and from Mogadishu to Dakar, this is Chimstock Africa. And now here's your host, Chim Onyibilanma.
Hi there, welcome to this week's episode of your show. You know, we all love a rag to riches story. We all love the guy who is nobody becoming somebody. Over the years, I've interviewed several leaders, top leaders who started from abject poverty. So tonight, I want to go back to those episodes to just pull out some lessons we can learn from these great men and women. Because when I meet them often, the first question I like to ask is just to understand, how was it like growing up in poverty?
When I was born a weakling. I was sick most of the time. I had migraines. I was in and out of hospital. And now, because of poverty, malnutrition was part of me. I was tall and very thin and, sickly, as I said. So we were poor because I did not have, the luxury of living with my mom, because I don't know my mom. My mom died when I was very young. And we were raised by my maternal grandmother, a woman of faith. And my grandmother was a pensioner. And I had my uncles and my aunt, all of them were living in their homes. So the three of us, we were three children. So we went there and lived there. But Pastor, I must say it was a harsh life. Most of the time I went to school with no food in my stomach, walking long distances, raining, sunny days, windy days on the road to school.
So I was born into a polygamous family. Polygamy is quite common in Africa, where you have a man having 2-3 wives and all that. And I grew up, with a lot of insecurities. We didn't have television. We had to go and look through the window of a neighbor to get a peep of what was going on the TV. And when they were angry with us, they would just shut the blind. And that's the end of television for you. You go back to your to your house. And of course, we were living in a one-room apartment way back and all that. And my father, interestingly, had 13 children. So eventually we moved into a place where we had to sleep on mats, and all the children sleeping in the sitting room, divided with a center table, the children of the first wife on one side, the children of my mom on the other side of the divide. And that was what I grew up knowing.
Yeah, when my sister passed on, I came back to Lagos quite all right and tried to serve again, but it wasn't working. I left to go to school. I started Government Technical College, that's somewhere in Ikotun in Lagos. And I tried doing that. I was working part-time, I was schooling part-time. It was not easy. I couldn't even afford the money to be able to further the education. So I just had to stop at a particular time, took the final exam that they call it NAPTEP. I took that exam and I felt that I was done with that. I needed to just go and work and make money. I have sold video games, I have sold, hawked in the street. I used to go to Alaba International Market to buy CDs to come and sell around the vicinity. I joined the choir because of economic interest, because the choir is a large place. So when I sell my CDs, the choir will buy my CDs. So I was the CD distributor for the choir. So I just looked for all avenues to make money. So that thing has always been there.
One morning at 6 o'clock, 5:30 thereabout, a Peugeot pickup van turned up and loaded all of my mom's stuff into the back. And a sewing machine was tied to the back, and my mom left. I was about 7 years old. My sister, my immediate junior sister, Ini, was 2 years old. And my late second sister, Emma, was 6 months old. And from that instant on, I had to become a man while I was still a child. My dad was working 8 to 6. I would go to school at LCC, come back home, have to tend to the kids, have to tend to Emma. If I needed help, I'll call to the neighbors. But around my year 2 in university, the first term was fine. In the first term of that year, my dad had given me what he could to go to school and resume. And then apparently while I was in school, he lost his job. So I didn't know he had lost his job. Then I came home and realized while I was on holiday that things were so bad that sometimes they would go for a whole week and they would cook nothing in the entire.
Now, it's not where we began that matters, it's what we do with our future. And these men and women, they astound me because of the way they're able to turn around their future. I mean, all these ones you see here, you could go back and watch the episode, you realize that it was as if they had stacks of impossibilities in front of them, but they were able to overcome it. Often it was the mindset. And I would ask this question to them often: what was the mindset? What was the thing, the mindset that allowed them to go from their humble beginning to the greatness they've achieved today?
I had to start working in other people's gardens. That is why I love gardening now. So I had to work there, cut their lawns. And those days, there were no machines to cut the lawn. You were using a scissor. By the time, I think I get my big arms from there, from cutting the lawn and using the spade to work and then earning some money. And then later on, I decided I'm going to start a vegetable garden at home because we had a yard and there were no water. You know, there were no direct water from the yard. So you had to go and fetch water somewhere central where there was a tap for everyone to go and fetch water. So I'd fetch water there and come and to water my garden, got spinach, got beetroot and carrots, and then having to sell it to neighbors. The last one was at the age of 15, I decided, no, I'm going to start the braiding of hair because there was a hospital not far from home. So I used to braid the nurses' hair and get money from there. Then I would also assist my family for food and also, you know, to pay for my way back to school. So I went back to school. So I can't explain. It was, I always say to people, Pastor, poverty made me who I am. It taught me to be an entrepreneur at a very early age. It taught me that I have to care for other people. It's not about myself. It taught me that I have to be a hard worker. And at school, I became one of the brilliant students that ultimately I managed at standard 6 to get bursaries up to postdoctoral degree.
I didn't have a choice.
There was no choice.
I didn't need a motivation.
That was no like the 7-year-old boy. There was no choice.
There was no choice. I had to
Your junior one had to be taken care of, so it was duty.
It was duty, or I think it was just purely duty that kept me. And again, this is pivotal. I hadn't joined Accenture. A lot of the principles that are taught to me later on in my life, I didn't know them. I didn't know the names, but I knew the concept. I knew, for example, that failure was not an option. Failure didn't exist in my lexicon. I could do anything. I didn't know the technical terms for it, but I knew if I put my mind to anything, I could do anything. Failure couldn't define me unless I allowed it to. And that is what kept me. I knew I was good. I knew I would pass. I knew I had the intellect, but I knew I had to put in the effort. And if I put in the effort, success was guaranteed. That's all that kept me. I didn't know the technical names back then. But that's what kept me.
But I made up my mind early on, especially when I encountered Christ, that this was not going to define my life. That the poverty that I saw was not my poverty, it was the poverty of my parents. So I wasn't going to own it. I wasn't going to adopt somebody else's poverty as my own poverty. So making up my mind, and with that determination and with Christ at the very center of that, my life changed.
Okay, the journey started from the village, you know, those days when we go to the village for Christmas, and I see a number of our village guys come to the village with their cars, with everything, and when you ask them, where do you come from or where do you live? They say it's Lagos. And I say, wow. A number of them I asked, they say Lagos. Somebody's opening a house somewhere And you ask them, oh, where did he come from? Lagos. Say there must be something in this Lagos. So we are all going to the Lagos. So that was how, fast forward many years later, my elder sister, who happened to be our third born, her husband had an accident, and the accident happened very close to where we lived, and we're the one that took care of him, depending when the wife will come. And when they came, they too were in Lagos, and they were telling me all the good things about Lagos, and I said I was going to Lagos. So I was willing to abandon my education then. I was in JSS 2, and I abandoned the education.
JSS 2 is second year in high school.
Like a second year in high school.
High school, okay.
Yeah.
For every success story, there is always a lot of people and a lot of divine providence. People God brings the way of these people, or events that God brings into their life's journey that changes things for them. So it's always important for me to ask them,
my grandmother taught me is that education is key. To say that it doesn't matter how difficult it is, where she gets pension and she can save a little bit, 2 rand or 3 rand or 10 rand. By those days, Pastor, it was a lot of money. So I would be able then to be able to continue with my studies. And education is key. And thirdly, she taught me I must be a people servant. So it doesn't matter who it is. If people need my service, like when we grew up, we were taught that children are for the community. Any parent can send you to the shops. Any parent can call you to come and do laundry for them. And that servanthood is critical, because she said, one day you're going to be a leader, and that in that leadership, you have to be a servant by serving other people, not you being served.
I had started this investment with a particular company, and I was investing on a monthly basis. And I remembered that my account officer reached out to me and said, would I be interested in working with them? Because he saw that every time he gave me my financial statements, I was always asking questions, and he felt this guy is too intelligent to just be a customer.
Even though he doesn't have a university
Even
paper.
though he doesn't have a university degree. And so that was it. And I said, look, I'll give it a thought. And later on, I decided I was going to join. So February 14th, 2005, I joined the organization after I chit-chat with the CEO of the company. And that was how I resumed. And like they said, the rest is history. I moved from being just a junior executive to becoming a regional vice president in about 5 years. I built a 10,000 customer base for the organization, raised several managers for the organization around Nigeria. That was where I started to hone my management consulting skills without even realizing that was what it was. When I met my wife now, at the time as a friend, my parents-in-law were concerned that, what were you doing with your youthful age? What were you doing?
Get a degree.
You didn't get a degree. And so my mother-in-law recommended her, you can still try again. It doesn't stop you from getting married, and all of those things. And then I applied again to Unilag, and I got admission to study mathematics. And then I deferred the admission again.
You got there, it was still feeling awkward.
Yes, I deferred the admission again and then didn't return till date. I paid the school fees in full because, like I said, I was already working.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't return there. So I was transferred to head a branch, to start a new branch of our company at the time in Ogun State, in Abeokuta, the city capital in southwest Nigeria. And then I met this young man who told me about this theological seminary. And then we went to the school together. It will interest you to know that the guy went along with me. He even dropped out. But I found purpose. I found that, wow, this is what I've been looking for. I had
this is the education I needed to get.
This is the kind of education I have really, really, really been looking for. So even though it was not conventional, even though it was not the in thing. I mean, when people ask me, what did you study? I tell them theology.
I attended a church called Calvary Bible Church, and it's been led by Dr. Olumide Emmanuel, and he was one of the people that took me from that age and started molding me It was the father I never had. You know, so it was a family I found. So because I found that wonderful family, it gave me direction. It gave me, you know, hope that
you felt you could try again.
Yes, I felt I could try again. I felt I could push things in life. I saw how he started the church. I knew when the church started. I wasn't a member then, but I knew when it started because I was serving then, so I knew when it started. And I saw how the church grew. I saw how he also grew. And I felt that this is a young man that grew this way. If I'm committed under his mentorship, I will also grow that way. So that was the motivating factor. Until today, I don't joke with him because I need to just go and work and make money. And that was how I started as a foreman working with an engineer. It's unfortunate that the man is also gone to be with the Lord right now. But that was also another man that I had an encounter with. Now, what happened? When I started schooling, my elder sister's husband, who happened to be the one I was serving, didn't like the fact that I was schooling, one, and I was also living in his house. And he wanted to, you know, go on with his life, with other things, you know, and all of that. So he didn't like it, and I think he was looking for a way to push me out of the house. And eventually one day something happened in the house, and he just called me and said, tonight you are going out of my house. That night I left. I didn't know where I was going. So I took my things to my elder sister, who happened to be in Pangrove in Lagos State. And but I was working with that engineer. I couldn't leave the job. That was where I was making the small money I was using to sustain myself and, you know, do the little schooling I could do. So when I came to work that day, unlike me, I don't go to work late. Notice that I came to work late. What happened? By the time I spoke to him about it, he said, wow, okay, don't worry. We'll fix something. So after work that day, he said, let's go to my house. And when I got to his house, he said, don't worry, you'll be here until you can find your place.
Wow.
I said, wow, this must be an angel. And the most baffling thing was that he just called his wife and said, baby, this is the wisdom I've been talking to you about. And he's going to be staying with us for a few weeks till he can find his own place. You know, just accept him. And she said, wisdom, you're welcome. And that was all. I stayed in that man's house for 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah. And I worked with him with all my heart. His name is Lawrence Okandeji.
The one that's going to be with the Lord.
He has gone to be with the Lord, unfortunately. And he's one of the people that keep inspiring me even when...
So God brought several people
angels
into
my
your
way.
life.
Several people.
To help you along the way.
A friend of mine from University of Ilorin too, Sylvester Ofulwe. I was with my wife at a birthday event, and he said, I saw an alert on my phone. Between January and that April, May, I had not earned a single income at all, no income. And then I got an alert on my phone, and I looked at Sylvester, and I laughed. And I gave the phone to my wife. I said, Sylvester must think things are very difficult. He's just sent me 50,000 naira. And my wife looked at it and said, did you read this text? And I said, yes, I saw the alert. And she gave the phone back to me and said, read it again. So I looked at the phone. I said, oh, sorry, it's 500,000 naira. And she said, Hussein, did you look at that text properly? Can you please look at the text properly? And I looked at it. And Sylvester had sent me 5 million naira. And I was wondering, what's this for? So I started calling him, and he kept cutting my call. Then he sent me a text, said, I'm in a meeting, please, can I talk to you later? And guess what? For the whole of that month, a number of people kept reaching out with strange acts of kindness. I hadn't worked. I wasn't working at all. I can remember Dr. Magdalena Jani, the PAMSEC of Federal Ministry of Transportation, my brother-in-law, who is like my godfather, and my counselor, Pastor Kule Areogun. All of these guys reached out with significant amount of, and I'm thinking, I didn't realize I had this amount of goodwill. I always thought I was alone. And then in May, I formally started my company, Zimedi.
I hope you are following and learning from this discussion, because there is so much to glean. as we round up, I think one of the critical questions I like to ask myself, or I would like to ask for you, is how can an ordinary man, there's so many of us sitting there and say, how can I go from where I am today to where I'm supposed to be? How can a man go from just being ordinary to becoming all that God wants him to be? What will it take? What kind of things should happen to that person?
So for those who are thinking of going into business, you must understand planning is critical, but with all your planning, prepare your mind for worst case scenario, because business will always cost you more than you planned. Especially if you work in an unpredictable environment like Nigeria, where too many things are not certain, where the biggest risk in running business in Nigeria, for example, is regulatory risk. And so you realize that you've got to prepare for worst case scenario. So remain an incurable optimist, but also play the devil's advocate. What is the worst thing that can happen? And prepare for that. So again, it's also the need for you to work hard. I see a lot of people talking about working smart. The smarter you work, the harder you need to work. Because when you work smart, you will shorten the time for getting results. It means that you will now have more time to do more work. Okay, so we actually don't get to the top. We are brought to the top. You are the same 5 years from now, except for two things: the books you read, the company you keep. And so you want to look at your association and the information. So I'm sold out to knowledge. Last year I read over 100 books. This year, this is February, right? And I've read over 35 books already. I'm giving to knowledge. Next month, I just enrolled for an owner-manager program in Lagos Business School. I have an MBA in Business School Netherlands, but I'm not. Last year, I'm always going for upgrading myself, updating myself. So place premium on knowledge. Place premium on knowledge. If you know better, you do better. And so knowledge is critical. But apart from knowledge, you need relationships. And that's a game changer for us in business. So what you know plus who you know is what really brings the turnaround.
Well, the first thing is know God. Have a relationship with Christ. And this is not about religion. Have a personal walk with God. Once you have this relationship, your journey starts from there. That's number one. Number two, know that God will not come and do things for you. He will give you ideas, He will give you knowledge, guidance, and all that. And you must now take the lead under God. So what are those things? Number one, you need to believe in yourself. You need to have a vision for your life. You need to be resilient. You need to work hard. And when I talk about working hard, it's not just doing hard work. It goes beyond hard work. I'm talking about excellence, actually. You've got to utter whatever you do with excellence. What do I mean by that? The Bible talks about Daniel having an excellent spirit and that he was preferred above the other people. So whatever you do, you must do it well. Africa must be known for excellence. It's not enough for us to just say we are part of the world. You are part of the, what are you bringing to the fore? So if you are there, you are thinking about your life, I want to succeed, how can I do? Number one is God. Have a vision to succeed. Believe in yourself. You must be resilient. You must work hard. You must utter whatever you do with excellence. Follow Christ everywhere you go. I mean, there is no other thing apart from that. Okay, so, failure is never final. The fact, you can't go through life without going through obstacles or facing hiccups. Life is not a straight line. Right, and one of the things I tell people that are close to me, especially young people coming up, is that never take failure as a personal thing. Everybody fails in life. There is nobody born of a woman that has a very straight path to success. Okay, so like you said, I didn't make the cutoff mark to get into the university twice. That was a setback for me, but I didn't stay at a point of failure. I believed that I was more than that and that I could actually achieve if I could only continue to try. So on the third attempt, I made it into the university. And the interesting bit about it is the fact that not only did I get admission into the university, I gained admission into the Faculty of Law, that's to study law in the Obafemi Law University in Ife. I ended up as the overall best graduating student.
Okay, I think the way to success is number one, God. All right? God is the reason why we are where we are today. If you can stay put in a place where God keeps inspiring you, you will never fail in your life. That's one. Number two is people. If you're able to find the right people, whether you call them mentors, you call them friends, you call them associates, you call them partners, if you find the right people, it is very sure that you will go very far. He said that if you show me your friends, I will show you your future. You know, people are very important in the journey of our life. We cannot succeed without people. Then the right principles. If you are able to live by the right principles and hold on to the things that are your convictions and hold on to it very well.
If you're watching this program, I want you to realize that God is not man. He can't lie. If he has said it, it is settled. But you must know what he has said about you. The biggest challenge is that most of us go through life struggling with things that have already been settled, struggling with adversity that we think are adversities, but they are just promotional footstools for you to climb to that destiny that God has set up for you. Just remember that if you're a child of God and you've committed your life to Christ, if he has said it, it is settled. And live your life in peace, knowing that God already has got your back.
Wow, I do hope you have been encouraged and inspired as we've looked at just a collage of all these different stories of rag to riches. But it's not just to look at them. I challenge you. I read in the Bible about Joseph. He was in prison. He was a slave in Potiphar's house. But the Bible talked about him having great success. And we know the end of Joseph. The Bible said it was because God was with him. When a man walks with God, when a man is true to God, when a man is diligent, when a man changes his mindset, let God change our mindset. There is no limit to us achieving all that God wants you to. I believe so for you, and I just want to encourage you to take all the words we've heard today and apply it to your life. This is where we draw the curtain for this week. Thank you so much for joining us this week, and I'll see you same station, same time. Please like this video and leave a comment below. Let's know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell button and share this video with somebody else.